Sup individuals who identify with this type of interface, it's your boy Splice, and today we're going to be taking a look at the way that the Jake Paul and Logan Paul of the internet actually actively captivate and work with the editing system that they have to pull your emotions in and effectively dominate YouTube. Okay, so before we go forward guys, obviously I think the Logang and the Jake Paulers are probably going to hate me for this, especially because reflections are generally just a video where I deconstruct and examine the base ideas of what reality is, what certain things are that we accept as fact and reality end up being based on, the social concepts and stuff like that. And in this video I'll actually be talking about the way that Jake Paul and his brother actually manipulate your emotions to get your interest. The reason I'm doing this is because I like to understand the basis of why people are interested in things, what they find captivating, and what the people actually do that gives this impression. First of all, there's actually 3 things that they do incredibly well that really helps them start off strong. Now, after watching a few videos, I noticed a couple of things. They ended up doing a lot of stuff that's very in line with the typical YouTuber mentality. First, they grab your attention with a lot of energy and emotion in their voice and in their actions to really get you to engage fully with their video right from the start. Second, that audience that's first captured by that high energy needs to be kept involved. And then, the way they do that is by keeping that personality that they've developed over time and through continual audience and interest in what they're doing, is that continued personality being consistent throughout all their videos. Now this is pretty consistent in most of YouTube. Once you've gotten past the tasteful or baitful thumbnail and title, you kind of get an idea of what the YouTuber's about. The way that they present themselves when they first start their video, whether it's emotionally open, whether their body language is that of someone who's going to get a lot of emotional response from you, that generally sets the tone for the video. That said, the way they differ from all these regular YouTubers that have come up over years is that they've taken a lot of experience from their watching YouTube and understanding what gets people's attention. In the old days of YouTube, it was videos that are cat videos, or people getting hurt, or people just doing crazy stunts that got a wow, shock, just confused reaction almost from their audience. Now, why this gets people's attention is it kind of sets this suspension of disbelief very high. People don't expect this sort of thing to be captured on live video, and now that it was, it really got that reaction. Now what they've taken advantage of is its shock value and tried to elongate it for 15 to 20 minutes per video. How they do that is they bring their emotional range into very short intervals, and this is actually seen in a lot of TV shows where you kind of have this emotional range where you get to know the character, you get to understand their motivations, you get to understand why they're doing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then you kind of feel for them when they lose something or when something happens. Now, this is done very slowly so that you're emotionally invested in the character. However, when it comes to Logan Paul, Jake Paul, and any of the Logang or Jake Paulers, the way that they approach things is very, very condensed. Now PewDiePie does something very similar with this idea in that he takes this emotional range of feelings from an emotional high to an emotional low to a relaxed period to an emotional high to an emotional low to an emotional high to an emotional low on repeat. He does it to a more 3 to 4 times per minute in a video, whereas Jake and Logan Paul have taken this and made it even more minute for the most part. Now what they do generally is that they pack 7 or 8 emotional pitfalls and emotional surges and highs into the space of a minute. Then, after a few minutes of this crazy emotional roller coaster, we're given a minute of respite to kind of process everything that we've gone through, and then it starts back up again. And basically what this long process of highs, lows, and the way that they edit this so that you feel this in the short period that they have your attention, the reason they do this is to really captivate your attention and keep it consistently through the video. Most attention spans are relatively short, so the way they do this is they encapsulate their emotional high and low, their entire emotional journey in a short period, so that you're continually being refreshed with that emotion and being refilled with that emotional change and shift. Now, what this does is it actually pulls the viewer in, it makes them watch longer, and extends that almighty watch time that Game Theory and other channels will mention all the time about how you want to further your channel's life on YouTube. That's what it's all about these days, is your watch time. So additionally, one of the other things that they do is they end up intercutting something at the beginning of the video that later gets paid off at the end or the middle of the video. Now, this is actually something that's also seen in TV and some other forms of YouTube, but it's generally kept to more of a TV standpoint, is a almost future cut, where they are starting the video or the movie or the episode of the TV show right at the end or the middle or a certain point in time that ends up being a devastated or high emotional point, and then after a very captivating first moment, they cut back to what would be considered present time, and then they essentially give you the journey from where they started to how they arrived at that location or that emotional bridge or that feeling. Now, why they do that is because it entices you to wonder and figure out why, so you have to watch throughout the video. Therefore, again, increasing their watch time and the overall interest of their viewers, and therefore kind of building a more emotional ride for the viewer to watch. Now, they're taking a lot of these cues from movies and TV shows, but they're also taking it from YouTubers who kind of take these ideas from modern and contemporary film and TV and condensing it down so you get all the necessary kind of emotional feeling of that experience in the shortest amount of time possible. Now, at this point, they've kind of perfected that, flipping motions back and forth. They make many different jokes in the short time that they have to further pull the audience in, but it also allows them to take one joke and escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate again. Now, what this does is it builds a further tension to see just how far they're willing to be able to take the joke, the attitude, the idea. And they do this for around 10 to 15 minutes. So you get this feeling that there's just a consistent building of tension throughout the entire video to get minor or almost no real payoff at the end. Then, honestly, the interesting thing for me is that something that Game Theory has mentioned before is that they actually use each other's channels kind of conflict, and they use it to actually fuel their own growth. They build up their audience, then they started a conflict with each other saying, hey, XYZ, you, and then I don't like you, I think you should blah blah blah. They end up making a diss track. It ends up flowing over to the other channel where people let the other brother know. The other brother creates a video creating a diss track to go back to them, and then slowly as time goes on you build a vortex of people having to figure out where the emotional discourse of this elongated story spanning multiple videos, which of course everybody has to watch all of them in order to really understand what's going on, to really get this feeling of a cohesive narrative that they've essentially developed over two channels and two emotional sort of groups that are essentially warring with each other in the comments section. And it generates this whole diatribe of emotions and feelings that really is sending them in a bit of a negative direction. Now, this is actually marketing genius, but it sets a pretty depressing diatribe for going forward. They have this almost obsessive need to continue to one-up themselves and continue to escalate and advocate an idea for them to go crazier, more intense, more ridiculous, more drastic, crazy shit every single time they make a new video, and it's absolutely exhausting for the viewer. However, they do obviously get some time to humanize a little bit. Good example of that is when shit essentially hit the fan with Disney. However, he used it as a springboard to essentially promote himself again, and he's honestly kind of already surpassed Disney at this point, so it's weird to really understand where things are going with that, but obviously he's gonna be fine. The issue here is that it's a self-feedback loop. It's something that's continually feeding into itself and concentrating further and further. as Logan and Jake end up having this warring ideology and this attitude where they continually have people feeding into each other, this emotional diatribe continuing to get worse, more intense, and just generally more negative. And generally what's going to happen is they're going to have to keep going further and overstep themselves again and again to see just how far they can push the envelope. And they've already gone pretty insanely far at this point. So I think at some point it's either going to have to stop, or they're going to end up doing something that might end up getting them killed. Which will be great for views, but it's a real fucked up way to kind of end your career on YouTube. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is I feel like these two channels are kind of in line to go blow up incredibly quickly, gain a lot of fame in a very short time, and then burn out. That is what I'm kind of seeing right now, unless they find a way to temper their channel and shift things so they've got more of a steady audience and a steady income. Hey guys, that's just my thoughts on the matter. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. If you think I'm crazy, if you think this is definitely something that you don't care about, or you think that Logan Paul or Jake Paul are cancer, or one or the other, or neither, let me know, obviously, in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. With that said, guys, this is the one and only time I will ever cover these guys, because I personally don't like them, but I thought it would be interesting to cover why they're growing so quickly. They've got such an explosive capacity as YouTube creators and what they're doing. But I just thought it was kind of relevant to mention this. Anyway guys, that's really it. I'm sorry this video had to go up. I know a lot of you are saying he just put it up for the views as far as what I'm doing, and to a point, I mean, that's fair to say. If you think that, I mean, you can definitely comment down below and I will keep that under consideration. I mean, from here on out, we're never talking about this again. But, yeah, I mean, goddamn. These guys are very smart in what they're doing, but I just hope that they're going to be okay in the future, and that they're not going to be outrageous douchebags as much as they are, because, oh my god. Anyway, guys. God. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Splice night out.